My name's Scott Butler, I'm 40 years old and I drive a Ford Cortina P100 from 1985. So I think like most kids, I had one of those mats with a map of the town on it, and you had your Matchbox cars and you drove them around. And my granddad would buy me toy cars and I'd play with those and making traffic jams and things like that. For me, that's really where my love of cars began, because as a family we didn't really have cool cars. Like the family car was a bright yellow Yugo 55. It was like a 1 litre, and it had no stereo, one wing mirror. It was quite frankly an embarrassment to be in. And then one day I was off school, my dad comes in, and my dad's not a particularly cool guy. He said, "I've got something to show you." And we went outside and there was this bright Rosso red XR3i. And it was like the coolest, most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Since then, I've been a Ford man, really. So when I turned 17, it was time for me to get a car. I went and bought a red XR3i convertible. At 17, you can't insure one of those. It was like $3 a year. And so I only ever really drove it up and down the driveway. And I came home from college one day and my mum had traded it in for a Peugeot. I knew I needed Fords, and Sierra XR 4x4s and things like that, an Escort, and then eventually I bought the XR3i convertible that I wanted. You end up getting boring cars, and then you need to commute, and then you've got a dog, and you're painting, and all this other boring stuff. So it got to a point where I needed something else, a toy, something that excites me. It wasn't just a car that took me from A to B, it was something that I could feel the steering wheel, I could feel the road through the car. I was on the hunt for something different, and eventually I found Murtaugh, what I call her. And if anybody's familiar with the Lethal Weapon films, it's Murtaugh is getting too old for this, which for me, when I was commuting 180 miles in a 1985 car that leaked, only had a 4-speed box, would scream at me when I'm going down the link road, but I was happy. I couldn't hear anything because it was so noisy, but I could feel the car. Every time you come out of a roundabout, you know, you drop the gear and you accelerate and you feel that energy, you feel it through the road, not through the steering wheel. There's no power steering to numb that, nothing to soften it and make it all wishy-washy. It's just you and the road. And I loved it, but then you're like, ooh, I'm that boy racer again, what can I do? First thing was get a proper 5-speed gearbox, Type 9 gearbox, just the classic Ford one. So I've got a bit more range and it could sit at a higher speed nicely. And then it was like, well, that 1.6 Pinto engine, get rid of that. We need something a bit meaty in here. Big engine bay. So she's now running a 2.3 V6. This particular one's from a Granada. So now she's got some proper grunt to her. She's never going to be fast. No, it's an old engine, it's old technology. You pop the bonnet and you look at it and you go, oh, that's what does that, and that's what does this, and oh, that should be there. There's only like 4 wires in the entire car, but it's simple and it's mechanical, and it's not just pop it and there's plastic. That's a real car, and that's what I love. And I think the difference between driving that and somebody who's got a car that pushes out 400 brake horsepower is that they can only tap their accelerator, whereas I get to put my foot on the floor. I get to go through the gears and accelerate and feel the corners. I get to drive to its limits a lot of the time. And although I might not be doing 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, I'm loving every single moment of it. And to me, that's what driving's about. And that's why I'll always have a car like Murtaugh. Without being too philosophical, I think if you're in a car and it's taking you from A to B and it's comfortable and it's smooth, the journey's not memorable. If you're in a car that is like that you feel every bump, you hear the engine, you feel the gear changes, you feel the road through that wooden steering wheel, that journey that is essentially just A to B becomes an adventure in itself. It becomes memorable, you're switched on, you're aware of everything around you. It all becomes that journey. And I think that's a little bit reflective in life. If it's not a little bit difficult sometimes, you're not really going to remember it. And although that car's not going to change, it's always going to be a mechanically old thing with a constant fight to keep the rust under control. It and I will grow old together. We'll keep on going, and every time I go out in Murtaugh, it'll be a little adventure, and it'll be one more little thing ticked off, and it'll be one more memory that I take with me. She's pretty special.